Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today it is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, I have much stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. We are going to let you choose the next blend that I will be highlighting on the channel. We have some things in the queue, things that are lined up, but after that, I will give you a choice between two captains, and you can pick which captain is the most senior, which one is next in line for Admiral. Then we will briefly touch on the Seahawks draft. The first round of the NFL playoffs was on Thursday. I'm recording this on a Friday, so I haven't seen the second round yet, but some interesting stuff going on there. And then, of course, your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings. So let's get into it. As someone loudly does yard work outside, we're going to push through. There's nothing I can do. This is not a soundproofed studio. So upcoming videos, what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays? I don't have the tin with me, but the full review, the final review of Seattle Pipe Club Virginia Jazz will be posting this coming Wednesday. I haven't thought of a non-pipe video to do next week, but I've got a bunch of pipe stuff in the works. So these things are going to be sprinkled in as we go through the week. So after a non-pipe video, so next week, Virginia Jazz full review, non-pipe video. Then we are going to be doing GLP's Quiet Nights Revisited. This really surprised me. See, I had a memory of what I thought of GLP's Quiet Nights, and to me, it was extremely positive. And then I watched my initial review, and it wasn't as positive as I remembered feeling about this blend. But then I did the revisited episode, and maybe how I feel now is more in line with what my memory of Quiet Nights was. So this surprised me a lot. Interesting blend, really good blend. That revisited episode will be coming up soon. Then we have the two blends that I'm going to have you pick from. And then of course we have Elden Ring every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on Stuff and Things Plays. For a little bit longer now, I think we have just gotten into Melania, the hardest boss in the game. We're going to be camping out on her for a while. And then pretty soon after that, the series is going to come to a close. And then, like I mentioned, we will have a short Minecraft series before we jump into The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel to Breath of the Wild. So much stuff. It seems very pipe heavy right now, but I'm going to have some other non-pipe stuff coming up. Please be sure to check out my review of the alpaca socks that I posted last week. Lots of stuff to look forward to. All right, gang, this is kind of fun here. I have two blends before me, one of which has been requested several times. People have asked me to review this blend, and people have spoken about it as though, you know, I know you've reviewed a lot of blends, you have experienced a lot of different flavors, you've had really strong blends, you don't seem to be a lightweight when it comes to pipe blends, but this one is gonna knock you on your ass. I've heard that multiple times, so very interested to try this. This other one is, it's an old standby for a lot of, people might call it an old codger blend, a drugstore blend. Produced by one of my favorite manufacturers, by STC, the Scandinavian Tea Group. And they're both captains, and I would like you guys to pick which one you would like me to do next. Will it be Captain Earle's 10 Russians? That's captain number one. Or will it be Captain Black Cherry? So these are your two options. Captain Earle, which apparently is going to knock me on my ass, or Captain Black. Which one of these should I do next? I'm very curious to hear the results. I have to say, the review I did of, I guess it was just Captain Black Original, I did that years ago. That's one of the most popular blends I've ever reviewed on the channel, or one of the ones that the one that got, can I construct this sentence? It's one of my reviews that has gotten the most views. Doesn't necessarily mean it's popular, but it means that a lot of people wanted to check that out. So I would assume that a lot of people who don't know a lot about pipes and the pipe hobby, they have heard of Captain Black. So if they're thinking about getting into the pipe hobby, they might look up reviews of Captain Black, because these are the blends they're going to see when they go into their Rite Aid or their local drugstore or whatever. So I think in that way, it's a useful thing to do, to put out on the internet. This thing is one that I am definitely much more interested in as far as just the flavor and seeing what it's like. I'm intrigued by this blend, Captain Earle's 10 Russians. This one, I'm assuming I'm not going to enjoy very much. I could very easily do, I think if I do this, it will be in the form of I'm not gonna like this. I haven't decided yet. That could be something else that you let me know in the comments. Would you rather this be a normal review, just treat it like any other blend, or would you like it in the format of the I'm not gonna like this series? So several questions for you to answer in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to seeing your responses. All right, gang, we have to get into this a little bit. I don't talk about sports very often at all on this show. The only sport I follow at all is NFL football, and the NFL draft just happened, or at least I saw the first round of the NFL draft. There are several more rounds to go. And there was a lot of intrigue leading up to the draft because the Seahawks had one of the highest picks they have had in a very, very long time. They had the number 5 overall draft pick because of the Russell Wilson trade with the Denver Broncos. And there was a lot of talk that maybe the Seahawks would try to take a quarterback. Even though Geno Smith did very well last year, he is the current key Seahawks quarterback. Many people think, they got a plan for the future. Maybe that was just a fluke. And so the top prospect in most people's minds was Bryce Young. He is the quarterback from Alabama. And a lot of people thought he would go number 1. But many people figured that perhaps Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback, would be available at number 5 for the Seahawks. And even though he seemed kind of raw and unpolished, he is an athletic maniac. He is huge. He is strong. He is just a crazy athlete. And so a lot of people were placing him with the Seahawks. And I must admit that I was kind of intrigued by the idea of drafting him as well. And I was kind of hoping that they would. Turned out that didn't happen. So Bryce Young did go number 1 to the Carolina. Carolina traded with the Bears for the number 1 spot. So Carolina got Bryce Young, quarterback at number 1. So here's where things got a little disappointing. The Texans had the number 2 pick, and then the Arizona Cardinals had the number 3 pick. A lot of people assumed that the Texans wouldn't go for a quarterback because they were more interested in a rusher. And I thought maybe that would happen as well. I thought maybe they would stand pat on quarterback, they would draft someone for the defense, and then my assumption was that at number 3, the Cardinals wouldn't draft a quarterback because they have Kyler Murray. And then number 4 would go to the Colts. And I thought the Colts would draft CJ Straub, which would leave Anthony Richardson available for the Seahawks at number 5. What actually happened is that the Texans traded with the Cardinals for the number 3 spot. So they had the number 2 and the number 3 spot in the draft. So they were able to get the quarterback, CJ Straub, and Will Anderson Jr., who is an edge rusher from Alabama. So then at number 4, the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson. I think the Colts would have gone for Straub if Straub had been available. But since Texas did their thing, that made it so Straub was no longer available. That was kind of the domino that caused all this to happen. So the Seahawks at number 5 drafted cornerback Devin Witherspoon. Interesting. He seems like he's going to be a very good prospect, or he seems like he is a very good prospect. We got Woolen as a cornerback in the last draft. It was in a much later round, and he ended up being amazing last year. So if Devin Witherspoon is anywhere near as good as Woolen, then having 2 really, really dynamic quarterbacks, not a bad thing at all for the defense. And then at what number was it? Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Seahawks. Number 20. So the Seahawks also had a number 20 pick in the first round. They drafted the first wide receiver to be drafted in this round, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who again, he's the top wide receiver in the draft. Seems cool, Seems like they're giving weapons to Geno. I'm curious to know if there are any other quarterbacks that the Seahawks have their eyes on. They figured they could get later on in the draft. There was Will Levis, who everyone thought was going to go in the first round, but he completely dropped out, has not been drafted yet. The Seahawks do have the number 6 pick in the second round, I think. I'm not convinced that Will Levis is a good prospect. I don't know. I believe after all the vitriol around the Russell Wilson trade and then how that turned out, much to the benefit of the Seahawks, I have to give Pete Carroll and John Schneider, the GM and the coach and the GM respectively, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing. And we'll see. It's intriguing. I was really hoping for Anthony Richardson, but you never know. He could end up being a total bust. You have no idea. But these guys seem as near as sure things as you can get in the NFL draft. And I'm excited to see what happens this next season. So there you go. You won't have to hear about football until the season starts in September. All right, gang. But now it is time for hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag #AskStuffandThings. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can write me messages via Patreon and I will answer them in the next Sunday Stuff and Things. You can also hit the thanks button, the super thanks button under this video to ask me questions directly, and you will go to the front of the line or just leave comments, questions, feedback, concerns on my YouTube videos. I read every single one. So this week via YouTube, and a super thanks, thank you so much, Beretta von Axenstein Earle of Cheesesteak. Thanks, I've enjoyed the channel for some time. Keep up the good work. That's so nice. Quick, to the point, didn't even ask a question, just did a super thanks. Very, very nice. Next, from Michael via YouTube. Bradley, do higher quality handcrafted pipes S better? If so, why? This is an interesting question, and this is something we could probably do an entire episode on. The answer is yes, probably. Basically, just because it's handcrafted and expensive doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better than a mass-produced factory pipe, but your chances are better that it will be. I have had some Petersons that are really great, excellent essers. I have to trip up myself with my euphemisms here. And that would be a pipe that was like, $100 or something. And then I've had expensive handmade pipes that did not S well, but actually that's not really the case. And I know like Castellos are factory pipes, Dunhills are factory pipes, but they are of an upper echelon and they have a lot of hand finishing, or at least they did with the Dunhills back in the day. And the Dunhills I have are from the 60s. So they've all been fantastic. My Castellos have all been fantastic. I think I only have one kind of artisan pipe made by a small handcrafted pipe maker, and that is my Tinsky. I always say Tinsky. I always screw up his name. Mark, it's Tinsky, right? I don't know why I just have this weird mental block with his last name, but that is a beautiful pipe. It is a really, really good smoker as well. I would just say that don't get too caught up in the name and the price, but the chances are better, probably, that you will get a better esser out of a handmade, handcrafted pipe. Next, we have some feedback. This is from last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. This is from Brian Edge, who says, so after thinking about it, out of all of my pipes having various shapes, sizes, and finishes, I have to say my go-to is my Bones Stubby Pot. I'm a really big fan of the raw, unstained finish on the Bones pipes. The Stubby Pot is a perfect little daily driver. The bit is a little wide, and with a rubber tip sleeve it's even larger, but I got used to it rather quickly. Great airflow, and the bowl is a good shape and depth. Mostly it is just so short and small that it's easy to carry on the daily without worrying or damaging it. Thank you, Brian. And I included this because several people have asked me to check out the Bones pipes, and I think I will try to do that soon, so stay tuned for that. Next, from Tom Brown. Bradley, enjoyable as always. That was interesting information regarding Solani blends, but there was nothing definitive about their unavailability online here in the good old USA. I think they sell out quickly. I think that's the problem. The Gawith blends aren't quite as unattainable as Solani, but some of them are pretty elusive, and of course the unicorn of all unicorns, Esoterica. My own suspicion is the hoarding that keeps increasing all the time and the outrageous prices of the secondary market. A large online retailer often posts limits on the quantity that one can buy. Limited to 10 tins per customer per day. Really? I just want 1 tin to try. I guess I'll have to drop... Oh man, my phone's making noises. I guess I'll just have to drop $85 on something I might not like. Ain't gonna happen. As for pipe shapes, my favorite is the Liverpool, a small billiard with a long, slender shank and longish tapered stem. Comoys made the prettiest of them. Great show today. Thank you, Tom. We also have some feedback from MD of the North. Must have missed it last week. Congrats on beating Elden Ring. Very excited for the new Zelda game, especially the playthrough. I know you probably can enjoy it more at your own pace on your own, but thank you for your sacrifice to provide the channel with some good content. Thank you, MD of the North. And yes, I don't want people to feel sorry for me because I'm playing the game on the channel. It definitely is easier and probably quicker to play a game like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on my own, but of course, I'm going to play it on the channel. I want you guys to come along with me and experience it as well. And next, we have feedback from the Paca Alpaca Socks review. Robbie says, "Thanks, Bradley. I have a few pairs of merino wool socks that my son bought me. To me, they are the best socks I've ever had. Like you, I work outside with the railway. Even in the coldest winter weather, they keep my feet nice and warm." Yeah, and it's such a... I'm not one of these people who's a Luddite who thinks that everything old is better than everything new, but it is interesting how we go through these phases. We had wool socks for a long time. And then we decided, no, wool is too hot, it's scratchy, it's not good. And now we're kind of rediscovering that wool is actually a really, really good fiber. And of course, we now have wool blends and things. Like I can throw my wool socks in the washing machine and the dryer and they're fine. And that's because they're not 100% wool. They're a wool blend. So obviously things have improved as far as that goes, but just going back to something as simple as wool. Wool is a great fabric. It works really well. I remember when I was a little kid, it was all like, ooh, wear rayon. You know, maybe even when I was a little kid, people were starting to go away from these unnatural fibers. But I guess like in the previous decade, in the 70s, it was all about whatever was new in space age. But there's a lot of things we have, or that we have had, that still do quite well. And we don't necessarily need to progress just for the sake of progress. I said it in two different ways, progress. Progress just for the sake of progress is not necessarily a good thing. If it actually changes something for the better, then go ahead with the change. But anyway, rambling too much about wool socks. Next, from Blake's Pipes, aka Loy. Interesting. I guess I'm a guy that never looked into socks other than activewear socks, like for running and skiing. Other than that, it was white tube socks, or as I was a runner for so many years, I would take my old running socks out of rotation along with my shoes, then wore them to work as I was a physical therapist. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and I don't think that anyone needs to put too much thought into their socks, but if you decide that you want a little bit better quality, you're willing to pay a little bit more, wool socks, especially ones like the Darn Tough and the Paca Alpaca socks that have lifetime warranties, good investment to consider, because basically you'll never have to buy socks again. Once you get a rotation, you go through them, you wear them out, you send them back, you get a new pair. Pretty nice. And they're just more comfortable in general. So, thank you for all the feedback. Please keep it coming in. It helps make the show go. But now it is time for the very best part of the show. And that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support the channels on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is much appreciated. It helps pay for the fancy camera that is filming this video, the lights that are shining upon me, blends and other products for review, and it goes so far in helping me do this thing that I do every single week, and I really, really appreciate it, gang. Thank you. There's also a super thanks button under this video if you want to donate directly. But every week we like to shout out those who support the channels at $25 or more a month. People like Kirk Crompton, Glenn Dunnington, Jason Buckner, MD of the North, David Gaudreau, Nick Papageorgio, Finn O'Hagan, and Ryan McFadden. And of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels at $100 a month. People like Bob Magee. And we'll never forget our Hall of Fame member and dearly departed friend, Peter Straub. Gang, thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned, don't have the tin with me, for the full review of Seattle Pipe Club, Virginia Jazz coming up. Some other non-pipe stuff will be interspersed, but then we will have the Quiet Nights Revisited episode, one that surprised me quite a bit, and then you pick if we'll be looking at Captain Earle's 10 Russians or Captain Black's Cherry next. The two captains face off. So let me know in the comments below, but until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later. A lot of talk in very little time.